Hello, beloved. This is Bev. It has been a long time. I hope you're all well. So today I really feel like the Lord would like me to share what's been going on with me, especially concerning a very profound experience I had through the summer. That involved a fast, a race, an axe, a trip to the hospital for a month and 8 days, partly for physical recovery and partly for mental and emotional and psychological recovery. And it involved coming home to a difficult situation and then the Lord's victory. So I've been trying to organize it all and getting overwhelmed. And I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm supposed to do that. So I am going to try to just tell you the story, just give you the highlights. Yeah, and it'll be what it'll be. So God bless you all. Thank you for joining me. And I love you. Okay, so after I finished doing YouTube, the Lord did have me continue to do some things for Edmonton. And so he asked me to do a prayer walk, which took about 11 days. We have a ring road that goes around our city, and I was to walk around that ring road. I'll just give you just some idea here. There we go. So, yeah, I did that walk around the city and prayed the precious blood of Jesus over the city of Edmonton. And then on day, oh my goodness, maybe day 9, I'm not sure. But this song came to me, Joy to the World. So, yeah, I wasn't even going to do this, but here we go. I'm trying to just go with the flow. All right, so Joy to the World. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. No more let sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. He comes to make his blessings flow, far as the curse is found, far as the curse is found, far as the curse is found. Hallelujah. I know I only have an average voice, but the Lord told me years ago that I'm supposed to sing, and I'm learning that I need to flow in the Spirit, and that came up, and so I did it. Hallelujah, I was obedient. You can skip it. Yes, feel free to fast forward. I will not be offended whatsoever. So anyway, that walk was called Take the Land. Take the land. All right. So the Lord is taking the land. Hallelujah. Now that isn't really what I was going to focus on, but I just thought I'd catch you up. That was one major thing that he had me to do before the fast. So it's interesting though that during that walk, I did get something. I got a dream during that time. And this dream was about a little otter. And it was rotting. It was the sweetest little otter, and it wanted to snuggle up and be close to me, but its body was rotting, and I almost dropped it, and then part of the skin fell off, and the fur fell off, and the skin underneath was white, not pink. It was like rotten, and this poor little thing was suffering so badly. And I lay it down on the ground. It put its head down in the crack, and it couldn't move anymore. And I could just feel the Lord's compassion, and I knew it was my husband. And that the Lord was feeling compassion on him and his suffering. And I know I've shared with you before that he has struggled for many, many years. But this dream was very profound. All right. So then life went on, and what happened now? A couple of things. A friend of mine brought a dream to me, and in this dream, so I'm only trying to pick out the things that relate to what God accomplished through the fast. In this dream, she and I were before this building, and there was a door, and there was a man there, and we spoke to him and told him, the way to get into this building, and then we went in, and for some reason he didn't follow us. I believe that he couldn't get in. He couldn't find his way in. So we went in, and we went up a few levels, and then she came, spoke to a woman who I believe was an angel, and the angel said to her, "You will be working with the children." And then I said, and I'm doing this from memory, but I'm only giving you the highlights. I said, I need to go back to the beginning and find out where I'm supposed to go. So I went back to the beginning, and then she had a picture of me sitting at a table with another woman who was basically telling me that something that I was going to be asked to do was very, very difficult and kind of almost discouraging me. And then my friend heard me say, "Whatever it takes." And that was the end of the dream. And she felt strongly to bring that to me after the walk, but before the fast. So she gave that to me, and I prayed through that. And I did feel that the man outside was my husband, and he wasn't able to get in. And I'm thinking that the doorway was the doorway into the kingdom. And then a couple of days before the fast. Now, the fast started on May 24th. May 24th. So a couple of days before that, or the day before, anyway, a friend of mine that lives in Ontario texted me and said, "I believe the Lord is telling me that you need to be like Issachar." And I had no idea who Issachar is. And just for your understanding, I will read. So when Jacob blessed his sons, Issachar was one of his sons. So this is in Genesis, and Genesis 49, verses 14 and 15. So this is where Issachar comes in. "Issachar is a strong ass, crouching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute." Okay, so when I first read that, as probably it sounds to you, it was like gibberish. I had no idea what it was. But as I sought the Lord on it, he brought more clarity. But the bottom line is that the Lord was speaking to me about bearing a burden. Okay, so after I read that, I had a dream that night, and I knew in the dream that I needed to put my shoulder to the burden. Okay. So then the next day, I didn't feel to eat. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to pray about this and press into the Lord. So that's what I did through that day, and I felt that I had confirmation that this was a fast. At first, I thought it was 40 days. Um, in a way, it was 40 days, but I'll get to that. Now, I'm just trying to think if there's anything that's worth highlighting there. Yeah, the Lord gave me so much through that fast, but I'm gonna cut to the chase. Yay, because I know I can be long-winded. Okay, so it started off being just a normal fast, but then at some time between the beginning and 21 days, the Lord began to ask me things, and the Lord began to get very stern with me, even to the point where I felt like, is this even you, Lord, or is this the enemy? Because I felt I was to do something, and always my habit is when he asks me to do something, I ask him for strength to do it, or ask him to help me or whatever. And I got a sharp rebuke this one time, and he said, do it yourself. It's time to grow up. And it was like, oh. And that was the beginning of him being very, very, as I said, stern with me. And then he began to lead me into spiritual exercises. One was for the soul of my daughter, who had been seduced by Satan and was almost trapped completely. And so he had me do some intense intercession, and he had me write a letter to her that took me all day long, and he just kept on me, you got to finish this, you got to finish this. And I wrote it and rewrote it until I got it right. Then I had to go buy the right paper, the right pen. I had to rewrite it. It had to look right, and I had to deliver it to her. And anyways, I did get that done and deliver it to her. So, and then he had me to do some profound intercession for her in the day following that. But I do believe that she had a breakthrough. He showed me that he dealt with a root of bitterness in her that was profoundly difficult to deal with. That reminds me, the Lord did give me a verse about there are certain demons that only come out by prayer and fasting. And he also gave me the verse from Isaiah, is this not the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness and that to set the captives free. And so I had the sense that this fast was about setting captives free. Also, I believe that it was to bring me to the complete end of myself. I believe that he finally did that, bring me to the complete end of myself. Okay. All right, so yeah, I went through that with her. And then at 21 days, he had told me through the fast that there is no day or night in the spirit. It's when I tell you, you do what I tell you. So, okay, sorry, I cut ahead there. He had me do some spiritual exercises that were very intense and very difficult, but I had to look into his eyes and see him when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane before he went to the cross. I had to see him, and I had to see the emotions in his eyes. I needed to see when, after his battle with the flesh, where he came into that place of acceptance of the Father's will for him. Because remember, he asked the Lord, if this cup can pass from me, please let it. He didn't want to go to the cross. But he prayed through it, and he fought through it, and then he came into that place of acceptance. And I needed to look into his eyes, and I needed to see that acceptance. And our Bible tells us that when we see him, we'll be like him. So I believe that he was imparting to me a level of acceptance that I needed to come to. And he also imparted to me something else, and I don't remember what it was, and I've been laboring to find all the details, and I just came to the end of that, and I just feel like I'm not supposed to worry about it. It's not that significant to my testimony, and this is actually a testimony. Um, okay, all right, to this story. So anyway, there was another emotion that I needed to see that related to what I was going to have to go through. Then I had to look in his eyes again, but this was different. It wasn't in the Garden of Gethsemane. I just needed to press into his eyes, and I saw that they looked like two like blue whirlpools, and I needed to press in, press in, press in, and I had to go through, and then I was in somewhere else, and I was in this place, and I didn't know where I was, and I looked around, but then I saw the Ancient of Days sitting on his throne. And in my mind, I thought the Ancient of Days is the Father, and he may well be, but in a different capacity, because I've seen the Father before, as I've related to you. But in that experience, it was very, very, very intimate. He looked at me with the eyes of my own earthly father at a time when I did not feel significant or worthy of anything, but he had come to visit me at my home, and he looked at me, and I saw this absolute delight in his eyes. And when I went to see the Father, the Lord took me to see the Father, I looked in his eyes, and I saw the same look of my own earthly father, this absolute delight in me. And it was just a really profoundly special experience. And when I came out of that, I was actually covered in this blanket of like glory, and it looked like a cloud around me. It was about a foot thick, and I was just in this peace. And that lasted for about 10 days, 10 days, 2 weeks. I'm thinking 10 days now. But anyway, it was very, very profound. But this time, I did not see him like that at all, at all. And it surprised me. I knew it was the Ancient of Days sitting on his throne. And he was very, very stern, like just very, very, no emotion whatsoever. And I was like, Father? Like, I didn't even know if this was the same person. I wondered if this was the same person. Later, as I prayed through it, I realized that in that capacity, he becomes the unbiased judge. Like, there's absolutely no emotion involved. He's not influenced at all by anything but just the truth, the facts. It's just very, very I don't know, for a better word, factual. So I saw him, and then I knew I needed to worship, and I worshipped in like what I consider to be the most inadequate way. But I said, holy, 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 is the Lord God Almighty, and whatever I could think of, I don't even remember the details now. But after that, I said to the Lord, why did you show me this? And he said, because you needed to see it for what you're going to go through. And I said, okay. So then I came out of the experience. Okay. So after 21 days, in the middle of the night, I was woken up, and I just knew that I needed to get somewhere. I needed to get somewhere in the spirit, but I needed to do it in the physical as well. I needed to run in the physical, and I needed to get somewhere in the spirit. I needed to get to this place of light. And the Lord made me aware that my crown was at stake, and I knew it was a crown of authority to pray for my children, for their salvation. I knew I had to have it. And I knew I had to get there because the enemy wanted to steal it. And I needed to get there fast. So it was maybe 2 a.m. And I was in my little tiny prayer room because the Lord had separated me from my husband. And from the beginning of the fast. And, okay, there's details in there where I had to come under severe correction, but I don't need to share that with you right now. But he separated us. Okay, so he consecrated me to himself, and it was extremely important. He made it very clear that it was very important. Oh, and this was another thing too, that maybe about day 7 or 8 or 10. Anyways, I was well into the fast, but I had this dream, and in this dream, I inadvertently ate something. And a prophet friend of ours was in the dream, and he looked at me with this shock and horror. Ah, sorry. Okay, it's coming out as it comes out, sorry. Near the beginning of the fast, the Lord showed me, because I asked him, Lord, the Lord put before you, he set a joy before you when you went to the cross. Do you have a joy to set before me? Anyways, he made it clear that he, at the end of this, would be my prize. And my husband's healing and deliverance would be my joy. That's what he gave me right at the beginning. Okay, so back to this night. All right, so I knew I needed to get that crown. I knew I needed it so I could pray and cover my children and pray for their salvation and have the authority to do so. So I began to run, and I was okay. So that was the point. I was separated in this little prayer room. It's over there, as you can see. I'm in a different place. That's very prophetic and profound. I am in a different place, but we'll get to that later. I'm in a different room at the moment. So my prayer room that I used to pray in is the room right next door here. So when I point to it, you know what I'm doing. Okay, so I needed to run. And in that tiny little room, I had my chair, my lazy boy chair that I did my videos on. The bed, it was just a mattress on the floor. A dresser, a little table. One wall was stucco, and there was a closet. Okay, so in this little tiny room with all this furniture, I began to run. And I began to run. And I tried to be really quiet because I knew it was the middle of the night, and I was trying not to wake my family up. But the more I ran, it was like, faster, faster, you gotta go faster, you gotta go faster. The more I ran, the faster I ran, the longer I ran, the tireder I got, the more I was clumsy, the more I tripped, the more I banged into things, the more I fell. But I had to keep going. So obviously, I woke up at my entire family. My husband came. One more thing I got to go back to. Before I started this fast, the Lord told me to bind the power of the spirit of the witch over Rob, my husband. So I knew that he was under a witchcraft type of spell, or whatever you want to call it. He was in a prison caused by witchcraft. I knew. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. That's enough of that. Okay, so he told me to do that. So that's what I did. But when he came in, the Lord made me aware through the fast too of the effects of witchcraft. He taught me. I saw some YouTube videos, and I learned some things about witchcraft. Was given some prayers and stuff. Okay. So my husband came in, and he started to yell at me and just say, you need to stop. You need to stop this. You're going to kill yourself. You're hurting yourself, because I had hit the wall. I was bleeding. And he started to yell at me. But I knew it was the spirit of the witch motivating him, working through him when he was telling me that. And I just said, I bind the spirit of the witch over you. I bind the spirit of the witch over you. And I said, you're making it worse. You're making it worse. I have to finish this. You're just going to make it take longer. Just let me finish it. Let me finish it. And he resisted, and it went on for a while till finally he gave up. And he went out for a walk, and he let it all go. When he came home, he had let everything go, and he just sat downstairs and waited on the Lord. And then the Lord spoke to him and said, tell her it's time to go to sleep. So he came up and he said, told me about what had happened, and he said, the Lord said, it's time to go to sleep. As soon as he said that, I heard the Lord speaking through him, and I said, okay. And I lay down and I went to sleep. But I knew it wasn't finished. So in the morning, I knew he had left for work. I thought my son had left for school because it was about 5 to 9 in the morning, and he was supposed to leave at 8:30 to go to school. I didn't know it, but he hadn't left yet. I thought my daughter had left for work. I thought I had the house to myself, so I thought, great, I can finish this. So I got up and I started to move all this stuff out of the room so to make a clear runway because, okay, in the midst of running to get my crown, the Lord had told me previously, and I used to be a runner. I was a marathon runner and I ran 3,000 meters on the track. He told me, you were a good runner, but you were never a great runner because you would never, and he was giving me a picture of someone at the Olympics running until they collapsed from exhaustion, right? He said, you were never a great runner because you would never give yourself fully. You would never pour it all out. And I was like, yeah. I didn't need to win that badly, you know? If I could win easily and you know, still feel good kind of thing, yeah, I don't mind if I'm tired, I don't mind if I push myself, but I'm not interested in, you know, blacking out and collapsing at the end. That's really not my thing. But anyways, he started to make it clear that he wanted me to give myself, and he also said to me before this night began, give yourself to me. And I tried to give myself to him. And I would feel myself move out and then pull back in fear. I don't know what the fear was caused by. I don't know what it was. But eventually he just said, okay, just go to sleep. I think he was hoping that I'd be able to just give myself easily. And I think some people can. But I don't know. I guess it's just me or whatever, but it ended up that I needed to give myself fully to him by running this race to the end of myself. I needed to run. And he made that clear. So in the morning, I pulled everything out of that room that was in the way so that I could run from that room through my hall into the master bedroom, turn around, and come back again, back and forth through the hall from room to room to room, back and forth. So I had, in the master bedroom, we had a computer and a desk, well, a table thing we were using as a desk fold-up table. And I just basically threw everything onto the bed, folded up the desk, moved it out of the way so I would have a clear run straight to the wall and back again to the other room. Okay. As I picked up my bed, though, to drag it into my daughter's room, which is the room I'm in now, because since then she got married, bless her heart. Okay, into my daughter's room, I dropped it on the floor, and she says, Mom, what are you doing? I said, oh, honey, you need to get up. You need to get up now, and you need to go. You need to get out of the house. You don't want to see this, but I have to do it. I need you to go now. Excuse me. So she got up, kind of took her time in the bathroom, and I thought, okay, this isn't good. I need to get this done. Oh, another thing too, as I was either in the night or before, but in the days immediately preceding this, the Lord had brought back to me a movie that I had seen of a cowboy. It was a cowboy movie. And he had befriended this girl. She got bit by a rattlesnake, and he had to get her to the doctor, who was like miles away. All he had was his horse. So he got her onto the horse, and he just drove that horse. He drove that horse and drove that horse until it started to stagger. And then it was like it couldn't go any longer. And then he slashed the horse on the flank with his knife and poured salt into the wound, and the horse like reared up with like adrenaline because of the pain. And and it ran the rest of the way to the end of itself. And he got the girl to the doctor and saved her life. She lost her arm, but he saved her life. And the horse died. He brought that back to me too. And I knew that if I couldn't drive myself to the end of myself, that was what I was going to have to do to get to the end of myself and complete this race that he asked me to do. So, my husband had an axe. Well, has an axe. This is this little axe right here. Now, he was in such torment that he sharpened this axe to a fine, fine razor edge. All right? And he would sleep with his axe beside his bed in case in the night he couldn't bear it any longer and he had to kill himself. That is just to illustrate the kind of torment he was in. So, when I thought of that horse, I thought, okay, if I need to cut myself and put the salt in to get the adrenaline to finish this race, what would I use? And I thought about the knives downstairs. No. And then I remembered the axe. And I thought, that's got to be the sharpest thing we have in the house. And when I took the axe, I thought, yes, Lord, this is the real purpose of this axe. Not for my husband to commit suicide, but for me to do whatever it takes that he would be set free and that I would be yours and you would be mine. So when my daughter finished in the bathroom, I put the axe in there and I went down and got the salt. I hid it. And then she just dawdled, so I thought, you know what, I gotta run. I gotta go. So I started to run while she was there. And all I had on was a shirt and my underwear. That's what I slept in, and all I could think of was I've got to finish this race, and I knew there was a timeline. I knew there was a time limit. It had to get done now. I had to do it before Rob got home. And so I started to run, and I drove myself, and my legs started to fill up with lactic acid, and I felt the pain, and the Lord said, embrace the pain, run through the pain. The pain is your friend that's going to help get you to the end. And so I kept shouting to myself, run, faster, faster. And my legs started to get more and more sore. And my daughter finally left. As far as I knew, I didn't see her again, and I didn't see my son. And so I kept running. I told her not to call her dad, but of course she called her dad. So he did not, this is the interesting thing, when she called him, he did not feel to come right